Hello everyone and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham and we're coming to you live from the nation's capital here in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest headlines. Russia says bombing Tehran will not bring peace and urges U.S.-Iran talks to avoid escalating tensions. This after President Trump warned Iran of great danger if it doesn't drop its nuclear program. Russia formally invites Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to its 9th May Victory Day celebrations in Moscow. The Russian deputy foreign minister says discussions for the visit are currently underway. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the U.S. will take back the Panama Canal from Chinese influence during a visit to Central America. China denies interference and urges Washington to stop blackmail and plundering in the region. An Israeli airstrike on a residential building in North Gaza kills at least 20 people. This as Israel expands its ground offensive, ending a 2-month ceasefire with Hamas. And planned peace talks between the Democratic Republic of Congo government and Rwanda-backed M23 rebels in Doha have reportedly been postponed. The meeting would have marked the first direct talks between the two parties. We begin here in Washington, where President Donald Trump's 24-hour timer has now expired, and the world watches as the United States has officially imposed a stunning 104% tariff on Chinese imports.
China's paying a 104% tariff. Think of it, 104%. Now, it sounds ridiculous, but they charged us for many items 100%, 125%. Until they make a deal with us, that's what it's going to be. I think they'll make a deal at some point. China will. They want to make a deal. They really do. They want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get it started because they're proud people.
China, however, is not backing down, calling the U.S. measures blackmail. Beijing vowed countermeasures, igniting fears of a long, painful trade war between the world's two largest economies.
美方仍在对中国赖施关税。
The U.S. side is still imposing extreme pressure on China by imposing tariffs indiscriminately. China firmly opposes and will never accept such arrogant and bullying behavior. If the U.S. really wants to solve the problem through dialogue and negotiations, it should show an attitude of equality, respect, and reciprocity.
In fact, Beijing hit back at Washington with an 84% retaliatory tariff on U.S. goods. And the Chinese Finance Ministry said that these additional tariffs will be imposed on goods from the U.S. beginning on April 10th. As this economic standoff escalates, global markets have stumbled and hard. The S&P 500, a key U.S. benchmark, has nosedived, shedding a staggering $5.8 trillion in market value since President Trump unveiled the tariffs on April 2nd, dubbed Liberation Day. And the pain is not just limited to the United States. After the president's import duties came into effect today, Japan's Nikkei tumbled 3.6%, while Taiwan's market plunged 4.6%. The Tokyo stock market price index traded at 3.4% lower, and the South Korean market also edged 1.74% lower as well. Now, even traditionally safe assets weren't spared. After the levies on 60 worst offending countries today, oil plunged as well. Brent fell 3.7% to $60.5, while U.S. crude dropped 4.1% to $57.16 per barrel. Meanwhile, gold regained some shine, rising to a little over $3,000 per ounce as a hedge against volatility. Globally, policymakers are scrambling. In fact, New Zealand and India cut interest rates, while South Korea unveiled emergency tax cuts and subsidies for automakers. Meanwhile, economists warn that the trade shock could spill into a global recession.
What we saw over the past week really is the biggest set of losses in such a short space of time since COVID. really, because you've had a sudden shock to the markets in a similar way to what you had 5 years ago. Suddenly there was the expectation of the shutdown of the global economy. Now you're facing potential global recession.
But the president is doubling down and not backing off. In fact, he described the tariffs as permanent, yet teased upcoming deals, hinting at possible negotiations with South Korea, Japan, and Italy.
In addition, we have a lot of countries coming to see us that want to make a deal, and we're doing things that nobody's ever even thought about.
Now, what began as a reciprocal trade move is snowballing into a global economic firestorm. Markets are reeling, governments are scrambling, and President Trump continues to signal more tariffs ahead. The world is holding its bated breath, and what comes next could change the shape of global trade forever. And now from Washington to corporate America, ever since President Trump's April 2nd announcement on tariffs, global markets have been reeling from heavy losses, wiping out trillions of dollars in equity value. In fact, several American billionaires have seen their wealth plunge. The world's 500 richest people reportedly lost more than $500 billion in just 2 trading days following President Trump's tariff announcement. Within that list, a group of tycoons who have supported the president or attended his inauguration in January have also seen their wealth shrink. President Trump's close ally Elon Musk reportedly lost nearly $31 billion in 2 days of trading on April 3rd and 4th, post the announcement. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg lost $27 billion, while Amazon founder Jeff Bezos lost over $23 billion. In Europe, LVMH head Bernard Arnault lost $6 billion on April 3rd and more than $5 billion on April 4th. But amid this carnage, Warren Buffett, the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, stood out as the only billionaire to post gains while others were taking a massive hit. Buffett, who last year sold billions in stock, not only dodged President Trump's tariffs fallout, but reportedly profited from it. He's added $12.7 billion this year, bringing his net worth to an astounding $155 billion. This as Berkshire Hathaway shares are up over 9% year to date. Buffett's strong performance has highlighted how the property and casualty sector have remained largely insulated from global trade tensions and President Trump's tariffs, something that has devastated other billionaires and led some to urge the president to even reconsider his stance.
The ongoing market response to last week's tariff announcement was both predictable and preventable. This is the moment to own up to a colossal mistake and change course. Otherwise, America will face ruin for years to come.
However, President Trump seems unfazed by these calls from billionaires, defending his tariff strategy at every turn.
What the hell I'm doing? I know what I'm doing, and you know what I'm doing too. That's why you vote for me.
So as the fallout from President Trump's tariffs continue to unfold, the question remains, will the pain be short-lived, or is a deeper economic crisis on the horizon? Tensions amid a looming trade war between the United States and China has also triggered a war of words. The latest flashpoint being comments made by U.S. Vice President JD Vance on Chinese peasants, which have now sparked outrage in China. In a briefing, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson has called Vance's comments ignorant and impolite, describing them as surprising and sad. The spokesperson stressed that China's position on economic and trade relations with the U.S. is clear, which is to fight until the end.
China's position on China-U.S. trade relations has been made very clear. It is surprising and saddening to hear such ignorant and disrespectful remarks from this vice president.
Now, earlier, taking a dig at China and Chinese nationals, Vice President Vance allegedly insulted them, referring to them as, quote, peasants. This was during a routine media appearance on President Trump's bold economic vision, where Vice President JD Vance, while speaking to Fox News, argued that the globalist economy pushed by former presidents was a failure that awarded elites and other nations.
I think it's useful for all of us to step back and ask ourselves, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? We borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture.
The vice president's comments triggered varied reactions on social media, with outrage and mockery across Chinese social media, where many users slammed the comment as ignorant and disrespectful. Some users expressed anger and called for the vice president to be banned from entering China. Critics were also quick to draw attention to the irony of JD Vance's comments, especially given his self-proclaimed working-class background detailed in his 2016 memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. The book recounts his upbringing in rural America amidst poverty and addiction, experiences that many in China are now contrasting with the country's own technological and infrastructural advancements. A hashtag related to the vice president's remarks trended at the top of Weibo, amassing 140 million views by Tuesday afternoon. Backlash continues to grow, with many users calling for Vice President Vance to better educate himself on the modern China he has criticized. And amid a looming global trade war, while the shy vice president's latest remarks further strain the trade relations between Washington and Beijing, only time will tell. And moving to Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, where mass layoffs are hitting federal workers. But as the former employees search for new jobs, strange ads are popping up. The roles sound real, but the companies behind them are not. Fake websites, broken numbers, and secret links all point to a Chinese tech network, and laid off U.S. officials are being targeted with fake offers that may be part of something more sinister. Our next report uncovers how these hidden Chinese recruiters are trying to get more than just resumes.
In the quiet corners of the internet, a strange pattern began to appear. Job listings promising high pay and vague consulting roles popped up, targeting a very specific crowd: recently laid off U.S. government workers. At first glance, these ads seemed routine. But behind them was a secretive network of companies, all digitally tied to a Chinese tech firm called Smear Intelligence, which is now mysteriously offline. But Max Lesser, a threat analyst with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, was the first to notice. He said that the companies, which were 4 in total, were part of a broader intelligence gathering campaign.
What makes this activity significant is that the network seeks to exploit the financial vulnerabilities of former federal workers affected by recent mass layoffs.
But what makes it stranger is what isn't there. The phone numbers didn't work. Emails bounced. And addresses led to empty fields or student hostels. In fact, one firm, River Merge Strategies, claimed to be a geopolitical risk consultancy. But its Singapore address led to a college dorm. And the US number had long stopped ringing. Then WaveMax Innovation was another ghost. It promised roles in policy, project management, and research. Its address? A grassy lot in Singapore. Its company registry? Empty. These companies offered nothing real. No staff, no offices, no verifiable history. Just fake promises. According to US intelligence officials, this isn't new. In 2020, a man named Jun Wei-yo pleaded guilty to spying for China. His methods? Fake consultancy gigs and research assignments. His targets? Americans with sensitive knowledge, especially those struggling with money or job security. Officials now believe these new efforts follow the same playbook, after which the FBI issued a warning. China's operatives, they said, often pose as recruiters, think tanks, or academic institutions. The National Counterintelligence and Security Center followed with a bulletin. Foreign intelligence entities are targeting current and former US government employees online. Quashing all reports, the Chinese embassy said it had no knowledge of the entities involved. But behind closed doors, experts believe the pattern is clear. The digital fingerprints, the financial offers, and the timing, it all fits a well-known strategy.
I would expect China's intelligence services to dial those efforts up as they see a wave of government employees suddenly having to look for new jobs. While many former government employees are motivated by patriotism, some may be vulnerable to deceptive tactics.
As more federal employees face layoffs from Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, the window for foreign exploitation widens. The jobs look real, the pay looks generous, But the truth is hidden behind fake websites and vanishing emails. And somewhere out there, as another inbox waits to be opened, another message waits to be read, another line is crossed without even knowing.
And finally, we end in the Dominican Republic, where a night of celebration turned into a deadly tragedy in Santo Domingo as the roof of a popular jet-set nightclub collapsed during a live concert, killing nearly 100 people and injuring over 150 more. Hundreds were gathered in the club to watch merengue star Ruby Perez perform, who later succumbed to his own injuries. Among the other victims were high-profile figures including a provincial governor and former Major League Baseball pitcher Octavio Dotel. As search and rescue operations continue, authorities fear the death toll could rise even further. Here's more from the ground.
What began as a joyous evening of music, dance and celebration at the beloved jet-set nightclub in the Dominican Republic's Santo Domingo ended in unthinkable horror. Nearly 100 were killed and over 150 injured when the nightclub's roof collapsed during a live concert. The venue, a popular hotspot for music lovers, was packed with hundreds of people. Among them were politicians, athletes and prominent locals. They had come together to unwind, dance and enjoy a performance by one of the Dominican Republic's most cherished artists, Ruby Perez. But the music was abruptly silenced as concrete, metal and wooden beams came crashing down on those beneath. Among the victims was former MLB pitcher Octavio Dotel, a national sports hero, and Nelcy Cruz, the governor of Monte Cristi. 69-year-old Ruby Perez also died in the tragedy, while her saxophonist was killed instantly in the collapse. According to reports, Perez's daughter, who was in attendance, managed to save herself after the roof collapsed, but her father couldn't. There were no warnings. In haunting footage taken just moments before the collapse, people were seen laughing, chatting and dancing. Then a faint comment from an attendee. Something fell from the ceiling. Seconds later, a loud rumble, darkness, and the frantic screams of people crying. For 12 hours after the incident, rescue teams clawed through the rubble, desperate to find survivors. At least 400 rescuers joined the frantic search, and authorities reported hearing faint sounds under the debris, hopeful signals that not everyone was lost. Families clung to that hope. Outside the club, anguished relatives stood in prayer, some crying and some silent in shock.
We are concentrating in getting the people out, being able to rescue them, the people who are alive, to take them to different hospitals. Later, we will provide preliminary information of what took place here in terms of victims, both those alive and those dead.
President Luis Abinader, visibly shaken, arrived on the scene to comfort grieving families. He promised that rescue operations would continue until not a single person remains under that rubble.
The main objective is still to save lives, which is what they're doing. Since last night, we've been following minute by minute this tragedy, so that all the resources, government emergency institutions can be available as they have been. But we still have a way to go. We have trust in God that we will still rescue more alive from these ruins.
Even now, authorities have not determined what caused the sudden collapse. Jet Set issued a statement expressing deep pain and dismay, promising full cooperation with the investigation. But for the families who lost their loved ones, no statement can ever fill that void. A night that began with rhythm and laughter ended in devastation. It turned the stage of celebration into one of mourning. And as the Dominican Republic struggles to process this national tragedy, the sorrow of those who danced their last dance in joy remains etched in the hearts of a grieving nation.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.